Okay, let's start the session. Meanwhile, he will join. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to the session, How to Protect Startup Legally. My name is Samir Das, and I work as a Senior Investment Analyst in Growcent. I'm glad to welcome you all to this session. And we all know Growcent Investment Summit is to bring together the founders and the investors under the one platform. So the agenda for this session is to discuss IP registration, employee agreement, early publicity challenges and regarding the startup, how to protect the startup legally. So I would like to welcome our panel for this session, Alexia Delahousse. Welcome. Nice to
Hello.
have you, Alexia. And Mr. Shahu Pawar. Hi, Shahu. Thank you for joining. Okay. Our crowd is mostly startup founders, so I would like to help them understand how they should protect their startup. So when we are launching a new startup, you will be facing significant legal challenges. Like we have seen plenty of mistakes made by the entrepreneurs and the startup companies. The more common and problematic legal mistakes made by small and the growing companies. So these mistakes are made at the initial stages or at the foundation, or it may be at the early stage of the growth. So we will be focusing on each aspects gradually throughout the session. So I would like to start from Mr. Shao. Like, can you put some light on this topic, Shao?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Legal and financial, these are the most neglecting thing, basically legal thing. When any startup, any business founder start his business, he focus on business development, he focus on product development. He also, work on marketing thing, but they always neglect this legal thing. But a small mistake in legal can ruin all the efforts they have done. So as per my knowledge, this is one of the most important thing whenever any business are started. The legal thing is the important thing which need to be taken care at first level itself, because these it don't take lots of time, but any wrong thing which can be dangerous for the business, because every country has its own rules, own regulation. So whether business is under this framework or not, if you have developed a business, invested your hard-earned money in that business, and if one day government come and says you need to shut business, so it is a disastrous thing. So yes, along with the product development, marketing, legal is very important for the new business, and I feel it should be taken care on the day one itself.
Alexia,
Yeah.
your thoughts?
Okay. Yes. So as a startup founder, one of your goals is to scale and to scale fast. And guess what? The more actually you scale, the bigger your legal risks are, and the faster you scale, the bigger your legal risks are squared. Having a startup is definitely a very hard work for founders, and knowing how you can protect your startup and your business as a founder is very important, because you want to benefit from your hard work and get the benefit of your business. So, and also you want to focus on your business and not have to worry too much about being copied, sued, fined, fooled by partners, or be the victim of a bad buzz. However, when starting a business, founders, entrepreneurs are very often overwhelmed with administrative tasks, whereas they should focus on the business and the strategy. Adding a layer of legal complexity doesn't seem to be a priority. But as an ex-lawyer and currently in-house general counsel, I know that law and regulation are unclear, complex, misadapted sometimes, burdensome, overwhelming, and even blocking. However, you can't simply disregard legal aspects when you start a startup. To be able to scale safely, there are some legal steps that you need to take from day one to make sure you can protect your startup in the midterm and in the long term. And what's tricky with the legal work is that it's costly, time-consuming, And if you protect yourself correctly, you won't really see anything because things are going to go well. But still, and it's very hard to assess the positive impact of legal work. But still, actually, you only find out when something goes wrong, but you really don't want to be in this situation because it could jeopardize your business. So please protect your startup legally from the beginning. And I know legal consideration might be a bit blurry or even scary for a founder, but in fact, it's a great investment to make. And if you do it in a smart way and following very good tips, and we're going to try and give you good tips today, I promise it won't be too time consuming nor too costly, and I'm sure it will significantly be beneficial to your business.
Okay. Coming to my next question, that what are the aspects and like how a new founder who is starting his business could protect its startup legally from the very beginning? What are the things that he should take care of, like from the beginning only, so that you don't have to worry in the later stage or while running his business or doing the sales activity or any other product development or anything? Shahu, first, please.
Yeah. So first, whenever you are starting any business, so as I mentioned, the legal things we need to check out first as per your country, and then it comes to the registration of your business. So what kind of constitution your business you want to register, whether this is a proprietorship company, LLC, or it is a partnership or private limited. So what kind of constitution is suitable for your business? This is one of the most important thing. Second, because LLP and the private limited, the most common business practice, I mean the constitutions which are liked by the investors, because investors multiple people or founders to work together to grow their businesses. If your constitution is proprietorship or single person running the business, they are, I mean, of course they get funding, but they are not that much liked by this investors. So your business constitution is very important. If you are in a business which is new to the market, you are having a new concept, then IP, intellectual property, you need to take care of that. You need to get the proper patent of your businesses. Then copyright, if you are having some content or some thing you have created, you need to go for the copyright. Also, one of the important thing is that is employee agreements. Whenever you are hiring people or someone working for you, so employee agreements are very important. One of the important thing about this hiring thing, your co-founder, you should have the agreement between your co-founders about the rules, regulation, their terms, what job profile they will share. All these things need to be taken care at prima facie when you are setting up your businesses. So these are some basic things that I feel need to be taken care of legally. Yes.
Alexia, same question.
Yeah, actually, what Shahu said is completely right. Protecting your startup actually means protecting each of the key assets of your business. So the first thing to do is to identify what are your key assets. And of course, one of your key assets is you as a founder. And is you being able to make decision in your company. So I agree with Shahu. The one of the first thing to do is make sure to choose a suitable legal form to allow a good governance, a good decision-making process, if there is more than one shareholder, of course, and to ensure as well to separate your personal assets from the assets of the company. I'm a lawyer in France, so I'm not going to go into the details of which legal form, because I'm used to French legal forms, but for sure, choosing the correct legal form from day one is key. Second thing, of course, second asset is your ideas at Fast Founders. So whenever you speak about your business and strategy with potential partners, always be careful with the information you share and only share information at the right time. Share limited information at the right time, even in business relationships. And when you happen to share information, please do it under NDA. Then I agree with Shahu. Of course, one of the key assets is also intellectual property. So you need to take ownership of your business name. And for that, you need first to register a trademark but also to buy the relevant domain names and the relevant extensions of those domain names, anticipating the countries where you want and where you plan to do business outside your original country. For instance, just to give you an example, when I joined Conto, at the very beginning, the founders did not anticipate to do business in Italy. They started Conto as a neobank for SMBs in France, and they thought they were going to focus in France at the beginning. And eventually, they went to Italy quicker than expected, but when they went, the conto.it domain name had already been bought by a cyber squatter who knew he wanted to transfer this domain name for very expensive to Conto. And for some time, we were not even able to buy the conto.it domain name, even though we were launching our product in Italy. So I think domain names are also a key asset of the company. And actually, when you sell your company, having lots of domain names and useful domain names can also increase the value of your company. So actually, this is a good tip, easy to do and a good tips. Also, you should protect, of course, as a startup, you are a tech company, you should protect your website, your app, and your code, knowing that the code and software programs cannot always be protected. There are some exceptions in each country, so I think it's useful to get good advice on what part of your software can be protected by IP rights. Then you can also, I know there's a kind of copyright registration service that can protect also your software mobile application, database, website. So I think this is also something you need to check. And finally, if you hire developers who are freelancers, depending on your local law, you need to make sure there is an assignment of IP rights on all the developments made by developers or freelancers who are not technically employees of the company. So probably it should be some provisions in the contracts to make sure there is an assignment of IP rights. That's the same points that I think Shahu said. I have other points, but maybe we can speak about that later.
Yeah.
Unless you want me to go now, or
You
Yeah,
can.
you can go, Alexia.
You can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think another thing you need to protect is your business stability and your rights as a company. So you should never engage in a business relationship without a proper contract. And I know what you're going to say. Contracts are unintelligible, unreadable, too long. And that's true. But I think you can easily define some standards, meaning the key provisions you want to have in each contract and the provisions you never want to see in a contract. And you can focus on that at the beginning. If you don't have lawyers around, don't have budget to pay internal lawyers, at least define your standards, a few provisions you want to see, a few provisions you never want to see, and just proofread at least your contract. I'm going to give you a few tips. When don't commit in long-term contracts. A startup business is in constant evolution, and the pace of growth is very hard to predict, especially when very early stage. So it's very likely that your business will evolve in a way you haven't completely planned, even if you are an amazing entrepreneur, there's always an unexpected thing that happens. When I joined Conto, the founders had just entered into a 4-year contract with the providers. And they realized 6 months after starting the business relationship that this solution, they actually can develop it internally. They don't need it anymore. And they were stuck in a 4-year contract, and we had to engage in super long negotiation to eventually sign a settlement agreement, and we had to pay to get out of this business relationship because it was too long. Never commit to a very long-term contract as a startup. That's one tip. A second tip I can give you is be very careful with overages when you use SaaS solutions. Sometimes you enter into a contract, it seems cheap, but actually the capacity is low and overages are huge, and you don't have, as a startup, the resource to monitor well the use of your tool. And in the end, you can pay up to maybe 10 times the price of the subscription. And I'm telling you this, that really happened with us at Conto. We had entered into a contract. 3 years later, we were still using it, but the company grew, and we stayed under the same subscription plan, and we paid increasingly huge overage. So always be careful with overages. And maybe one last point I'm going to say, I don't know if everyone is going to agree with that, but be careful with non-solicitation provision, because for a startup, of course, you don't want to be unloyal and hire people from your friend's company, but still, it's a big challenge to hire new people. And sometimes you may want to be free to hire someone you have worked with in a business relationship to support your own business. And if you have a very strong non-solicitation provision, you won't be able to do it without having to pay a lot. So again, having contracts is important. It's a way to protect your rights, your business continuity, and make sure you always have contracts. You sign them also, store them properly. And if you struggle with that, you can use e-signature tool, contract management tool. There are lots on the market at the moment, and you'll probably find everything you need.
Okay, thank you, Alexia. Thank you. Another question I would like to ask, like, how about having a mentor on the legal aspects in the initial stages of foundation or during a company? Is that so important, or it is like we can avoid that by a founder?
Sorry, can I ask the question again? I'm not sure I understood.
Okay. How about having a mentor at the initial stages of foundation of a company? Is that such important, or one founder can avoid that thing?
Okay. Who's starting?
You can.
I'll take it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the founders always neglect this legal thing as not because they don't want to do the legal compliance, but the cost of hiring this attorney and lawyers at initial stages is very high. I mean, the cost is, not suitable for the small startup. If they are running a small business, then hiring this attorney or the legal mentor is not good. But going forward, it's always, advisable to have the mentor or advisory for this legal fee, because we are, being a founder, we are not aware about these small things or small legal aspects which are required by need to be complied by this startup. So of course, having a mentor or advisor is always good. But nowadays there are different companies which are providing this outsource facilities like CFO and all this thing. If you can't hire a full-time mentor, so they can go through this outsource thing. Having mentor is always good at initial stage itself. Yeah, Alexia, you can.
Yes, I agree that it's too expensive and a lawyer cannot be there from day one. And I think it's also good for a founder to force a bit himself to understand a bit what are the legal risks of his or her company. And at some point, he or she will hire a lawyer, but it's not a bad thing to have to go a bit into the details of the legal risk of your company. I think it's a safer approach. And of course, at the very beginning, you can have access to some external firms for reasonable costs. There are more and more lawyers firms that have developed business models that are fit for startups with fees that are reasonable and very flexible as well. I'm going to take one example where I think a founder is cannot really do it himself, but can have access to an external counsel is data protection. Data protection is very broad regulation. It's completely overwhelming, quite complex, and a company has to do it from day one, which doesn't really make sense for a company to do it from day one. But if you are a tech company, you have a data-driven business, so you need to be focused and concerned by data protection, but you can have an external data protection officer that you don't need to hire full-time. It can even be half a day at the beginning. And this data protection officer can help you as founder do the two first GDPR actions, which I think any company should do. Have a privacy policy and put it on your website. So this person can draft it for you and you just put it on the website, and have a data register, which is going to be quite simple at the beginning. But I would ask this person to start it for you as founder from day one. And at some point, after raising a Series A or maybe Series B, it starts to be a good time to have an internal lawyer. I think you have lots of options for that. But what I saw sometimes is an external lawyer who is hired by the company. And it's a good match because this person already knows the company a lot, is already part of the journey. And if that person accepts to leave his law firm and join you, that's a win-win partnership, because the person, the in-house lawyer, already knows the company very well. And that's, I think, an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, to adding one more point, like, I mean, for startup ecosystem, there are different agreements are there, just like a shareholding agreements. And the language, the startup founder may not be understand. There are small things like a drag down option and all this. There are very minute things which are not, are taken care while signing the shareholding agreement. But this may, need to pay the big cost for all these things while exit, or if the business comes in losses or all that during that. So it is always advisable to get it verified, all the documents from this attorney or the this legal people before signing these documents. One more important thing, when most of the businesses need to share their pitch deck to the multiple location, multiple people. So that time they need to have the NDA signed from these people if you are sharing your important data, financial data. So yes, these are the important things, and having get it verified from the legal person, it always advisable.
Yeah, maybe I should add, sometimes I say that choosing a lawyer for a founder, the first lawyer, probably the lawyer in charge of incorporation, the first contract, maybe the first fundraising, is really like, it's very much like choosing a doctor. It needs to be someone you fully trust, you have a good fit with, get along, you can share information very easily, you can give a call, you are comfortable telling him or her everything. And this person is going to be really like a confidant, a trusted advisor for the company, and it's key. And I'm sure you can find some person who will be interested in your project and your vision, and who will accept to have reasonable fees in the beginning, and maybe get higher fees when the company is a success. But that's things that easy to negotiate. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if it's the same in other markets, but in France we see some VC lawyer who accept to do incorporation almost for free because they want to be involved in further fundraising. So do not be afraid of lawyer fees. Of course, they can be significant, but there's also good deals to negotiate it for very early stage companies.
True. There are different, like these convertible notes are coming, equity funding, debt funding, and not every lawyer or every chartered accountant, they are aware about all these things, because these are the new things coming. So while choosing your lawyer, you must need to see whether he is knowledgeable about all this new ecosystem, these new things, new agreement. So these are also important, because the person who is, he's a lawyer and working in a court, and he's not aware about how startup ecosystem work, how funding works. So it will not helpful for the businesses. So before going or selecting the lawyer or any legal person, you need to check whether he's aware about all these things or not.
Yeah, I agree. And also check if he's really like tech savvy. She understands your business, the market. Are they going to be open also to use the same tools you use internally to communicate? I don't know, maybe a Google Drive or whatever. But you need to have a lawyer that is adapted to your company and your work environment. And having a lawyer that's too old-fashioned and that doesn't understand neither your business nor wants to use the same tools is going to be a pain.
Okay, now I would like to it's like a general question only. Is that patent and trademark that important? Because now it's quite common that two persons will be having the same idea and running the same business. So how that could be done?
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so rather, I mean, I will take this question in another way, because nowadays people are digitally available. They can see what business is doing, what is their financial, how they are working, what is business strategy. It's easy to copy the business idea. So in this scenario, rather patenting and copywriting things are more important, and I can say it need to be done. Because when you are going to sell a business, or you are going for, I mean, acquiring or raising funds, the investor always looking for the security of business. Suppose a person is running a business, is having a business idea, and if that business, I mean, copyable business, so if other person is having funding with him, he can run the same business, and that can be a competitor for him. So if your business is legally protected, then it is always a good and best business to invest in. So I feel copyright and patents are having more important in this era also, because again, you can't patent or copyright everything, because if you are creating something new, and it is having, I mean, it having some element which is not existing in the market, that thing you can patent only. But yes, if your business is legally protected, investors will love to invest in, and it will be one of the barrier for other competitors to enter in your businesses. So that is my opinion.
Alexia.
Yeah, I also completely agree. And it's key to have your intellectual property rights that are as much protected as it can be. Because we know with IP rights, not everything can be protected. But that being said, you need also to bear in mind that there are different ways of doing the same business. And it's not because you are doing the same business that you are going to do it the same way with the same success. So it's about the idea of the business, but it's also about delivering different steps to grow your business. And that's, it's just about your ideas, work methods, vision, values. And this, no one can copy them, because that's part of you as a founder. And of course, you should protect your business, but at some point, you don't really bother if some people are going to copy you. It's competition, and competition is a healthy thing on the market. But what you should really focus on is stay focused on your product. Make sure delivery and execution is always the best. Make sure you keep, as long as possible, your key employees, and make sure there's a teamwork that works well in your company. And at some point, you'll be able to be better than the one who have copied you. So of course, there's the legal part, and that's important. You should definitely do it. But also you should remain focused on your product, your strategy, and your work organization.
Thank you. This question is to you, Alexia. During the valuation time, many of the investors avoid the asset part. That how a founder could protect its patent during the valuation because it's counted as an invisible asset?
You mean how can they? How can the founder can protect the
their patent as an invisible asset during valuation?
So, I mean, if there are some inventions in the company that are patentable, of course, the founders should keep for patents as much as they can. That's for sure, and that will be taken into consideration by investors in the valuation process. But they will also look at things that are not patentable. They will look at your track record, your management team, your work organization, your values, your capacity to deliver the work in time. Everything will, all of these things will also matter for investors. So of course, if you can have patents, you should register, file for patents, but you should also make sure that investors will not only look at patents.
Shao?
Yeah, so if we talk about the investors, and because investors are, I mean, they are more interested to investing their money in the people who can work from them actually. They don't want to do business by themselves. They want to invest money, and they want to get the business profitable. So that is one thing. And if your business is having some patents, I mean, that you can share because you are legally protected. And if you feel there is something patentable which you want, I mean, you want to protect it from, so either you can sign an agreement or just like an NDA agreement from investors. Or before going to the investor, you should at least file your patent application so you can prove that you are already, I mean, in process to getting a patent. So yeah, that can be done. But yes, it's always better to have a patent and then go to the market. So it will be a easy, I mean, for any business.
Next question I will be like, what are the legal things one founder should keep in mind while hiring his new employees? Shao?
So as I mentioned, the regarding employee and the human resource management thing, it starts from the co-founder itself. If the two people are starting business, the first important thing, there should be a co-founder agreement between this co-founder. Of course, they are also the employee of the company organization. So the first important thing, there should be agreement between the co-founders. What will be their legal, I mean, responsibilities? How shares will be distributed among themselves? If they want to give the ESOP to their employee, what percentage it will be? How they will, I mean, dilute their equity while raising funds. These things need to be mentioned in this co-founders agreement. Second important thing, hiring the employees. Nowadays, most of the startups are, I mean, working in the technology thing. So as Alexia mentioned about this cyber security things, IP protection, these things need to be assigned while hiring employee. And when employees are leaving your organization, NDA is the most important thing. Your code need to be protected. So these things are also important. Along with these things, there are different government rules about the employee. If your employee number exceeds after X number of employees, you need to follow this government rules. You need to do registration, their PF, EPF, and their security, their insurances. All these things comes under purview after the hiring employee. So these things also need to be taken care of while hiring the people. Because I mean, the legal actions can be taken if your employees are not secured, and if you are working some business which is not, I mean, good for health, or I mean, hazardous for the health. They do have their own different rules and regulation, their safety measures and all these things. So these things need to be taken care during this.
Alexia, what's your
Yeah, I agree. Having a co-founder agreement is key. One thing I've saw a few times is so two founders founding a business together, and before the first fundraising, one wants to quit, but the co-founder agreement doesn't provide anything in terms of how the shares of the quitter can be bought by the founder that wants to stay with the business. And that can completely lead to the business crashing. And the founder who wants to stay with the business can actually not really continue, because he's going to focus on how to get the shares of the other founders back. And that's something I've saw a few times. So co-founder agreement. And one thing you need to contemplate in this agreement, unfortunately, is what happens if one of the two founders wants to leave before the first fundraising. After the first fundraising, in any case, the shareholders agreement is renegotiated, and clearly investors will never leave a shareholder agreement without a very clear exit provision. But at the stage of the co-founding, before fundraising, sometimes the co-founder, in the excitement of founding a company, they forget to plan the worst case scenario when one of them will leave. So one example, and when hiring an employee, of course, you need to have a proper employment contract. I think you need to have also offices, of course, make sure the work environment is good for creation and teamwork and fulfillment of your staff, that's for sure. And you should start from the first employee, your stock option, employee stock option plan, and define how much of your share capital through options or whatever you will give to the first employee. It's always a problem, and we see a lot of examples of actually companies who have gave too much to first employees, and that will create a lot of precedents and frustration when you want to hire more employees, or founders who have given not enough and who will actually lose too quickly their key and first employees. So, and that's not an easy task, because it's not easy to determine how much should the first employee get in terms of stock options. But that's key, and you should start your stock option policy from the first employee. You shouldn't wait to be like 10 or 15 employees to start, because that's too late. And you should bear in mind that what you will do with the first employee will set precedents for the rest. So at some point, you may lose control of your policy if you give too much or not enough. Yeah, that's my advice.
Okay. I guess I have all questions answered from my side. Anything, Alexia, you want to add, like anything more? If I have missed.
Yes, I think yeah, I think it's not clear. It's not completely legal, but to protect your business, I think there's also a need to define values very early, and in particular values for integrity and the way you will do your business, choose your partners, and it's also a way to protect legally from bad reputation. And sometimes we focus too much on like legal stuff, patents and so on, but there's also simple things that are key and can protect you legally in terms of reputation, is defining the right values and act accordingly.
Shahu, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most important thing for the startups is that now everything is going digital. The cybersecurity is one of the important factor here. As Alexia mentioned about this privacy policy, terms and conditions, also this GDPR rules that need to be followed properly. One of the most important thing about the content, I mean, nowadays everything is a content based. So your content is easily copyable. I mean, YouTube, you can see where there are different videos. At least YouTube do have their own verification policy if someone strikes, if the material is copied. But the blogs, just like you, plus your post in LinkedIn, Facebook, these are also the important thing. When during the early stage, people don't, take this thing seriously. They just copy material from somewhere and they post in their website and on their social media posts. But when business grows, the small things can be, I mean, they can come out anytime, and that can the people can sue you legally. So there are different options available online also. Whenever you're creating content, you can check whether it is duplicate from somewhere else or it is copied. There are plagiarism options are there. You can check your content whether it is a, I mean, unique content or it is copied material. So these things are also important when you are creating blogs, creating your online social media posts. So make sure your content is not copied from somewhere, or there are many times the founders are not able to create the content by themselves. So they hire people or ask, I mean, they buy content from someone else. If they are high tech, I mean, buy content from any freelancer, the single person can sell same content to different companies also. But I mean, this can also create a this legal actions if someone claim that this content belongs to me and this has been copied. Yeah, it's legally there are implications, but it also the reputational loss the company had to face. And for the small businesses, the reputation is very important, as the most common marketing tool is word to mouth, or I mean, digital presence is important for them. And if you some negative news are coming about through the social media, they may can hamper the reputation of the organization. So this is one of the important thing that they don't have much legal compliance for such thing, but at least a small checklist or small just you can say the due diligence can help the businesses or startup to, I mean, get right on these things. So Alexia, would you like to talk about some about this cybersecurity or these things if you have any different views?
No, actually, I fully agree. This is not something that really dealt with the legal team, but I know that when I joined Conto as general counsel, we had a security and cyber security expert. He was one of the first employees, key employee, and in our business, which is a business that deals with money, we definitely have to be the best in terms of tracking fraud. So it's a huge challenge at Conto, and the cyber security and security experts work on a day-to-day basis to develop internally the best alerts and make sure our data and the money of our clients is well protected.
Thank you, Shahu and Alexia, for this wonderful session. I guess all the attendees would have like very good idea about like they must be like taking concern and like how to protect their startup and how much and it is required and important for them in the initial stages. So I hope you all have enjoyed this session, and thank you, Alexia, once again, and Shahu for joining this and giving wonderful information about this.
Thank you very much.
So now we'll be concluding this session, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Tomorrow we are having a presentations from the startups, so please be with us, and thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Alexia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.